With the playoffs just 3 weeks away, let's break down 10 crucial things you need to know before the postseason begins. First up, Golden State's serious dilemma. With only 10 games to go in the regular season, the Warriors are still fighting to avoid the play-in tournament, a spot they'd love to escape given their history. They've been eliminated twice in the play-in and are 0-3 all-time in those games. To make matters worse, the Clippers' statement win against the Knicks pushed Golden State down to the 7th spot, making a play-in appearance even more likely. And with the way the Clippers have been playing lately, it's hard to see them slipping. On top of that, the 3 teams below the Warriors are also heating up. Minnesota has been surging recently, just half a game behind. Dallas got Anthony Davis back, and the Suns have found their rhythm, but the biggest factor, Stephen Curry. Without him, Golden State's chances of locking up a 6th seed are very slim. However, he just returned against the Pelicans, an important but risky decision, because if he is to re-injure himself, that would be an absolute disaster. But given the fact how loaded the Western Conference is, Golden State felt like they had no other choice. But Curry's earlier return isn't just about the standings. It's about the entire team's rhythm, confidence, and overall playoff hopes. Now, the second thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is that the Boston Celtics are peaking at the perfect time. At the time of recording, the Celtics are on a 7-game winning streak, and what's even crazier is they did that despite missing Jason Tatum for a game and a half. He went down early against Sacramento and missed the entire game against Phoenix, but that didn't stop Boston from pulling off 2 impressive wins. The game against the Suns was particularly impressive given the fact they did not have JT for the entire game and how the Suns were riding a 4-game winning streak, yet Boston completely dismantled them start to finish. What really stands out is just how deep this Celtics team is. Even when they're short-handed, they prove time and time again that they might have the best roster in basketball. Against the Suns, 9 different Celtics made at least 1 3-pointer and 6 Celtics scored in double figures. Despite missing their best player, they torched the Suns' defense, shooting 50% from the floor and 42% from deep, dropping 132 points in a 30-point blowout. During this 7-game stretch, Boston has been amazing on both ends. They own the 2nd best offensive rating in the league, averaging 124.9 points per game, while also locking teams down on defense, ranking 6th and holding teams to just 109.4 points per night. That ridiculous balance is one of many reasons why I consider them my title favorites, as when they're playing well, it is just so clear. Their ceiling is higher than any other team's, and even their worst case scenario would be higher than any other team as well, as the worst I see Boston doing is falling at the conference finals. And if that happened, it would be a disaster for them. But there are plenty of teams in this league that would be happy to just make it that far. This season feels different from past ones because the top contenders aren't just great, they're historically great. And Boston, they have no real weaknesses, as they're basically great at everything, and unless they collapse internally, they're going to be nearly impenetrable in a 7-game series. Now, the third thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is what is next for the Milwaukee Bucks. As a fan of the team, I am at a loss for words about the news coming out about Damian Lillard. Blood clots aren't just a basketball injury, they are a life-threatening condition. Thankfully, they caught it early, which is great news for Dame, but for the team, it's yet another crushing blow. To win a championship, you need the right pieces, but you also need some luck. And since their title push in 2021, Milwaukee have had none. In 2022, Chris Middleton went down after slipping on a wet spot, yet Milwaukee still pushed Boston, the eventual East champs, to a Game 7, with Giannis going into superhero mode. But without Middleton's shot creation, it simply wasn't enough. Then in 2023, Giannis injured his back in round 1 against the Heat, letting Miami take an early lead that they never gave up. Then in 2024, Giannis suffered a scary calf injury, which then went on to keep him out for the entire playoff run. And now in 2025, here we go again. Another key player goes down for the Bucks when it matters the most. So what does this mean for the organization going forward? In the short term, losing Lillard is massive. He's the leader of their offense, and in the 13 games without him this this season, Milwaukee went just 8-5, barely over 500. Without him, they'll likely have to lean back into their defense to stay competitive, but if Dame does not return, which is more than likely, it would be impossible for me to see this team making a legitimate playoff run. Looking ahead to the offseason, though, Milwaukee actually has more flexibility than I think people realize. Thanks to their trade moves, they're now under the first apron, giving them more room to maneuver. But here's the dilemma. How do you make a smart off-season move when you haven't even seen the team at full strength and what exactly they were missing in a playoff setting? How do you know what needs to be changed when you've never seen what truly worked? That's been the story for the last 4 seasons, and as a Bucks fan, it's incredibly frustrating because it feels like we were robbed of seeing this team get a real second chance to prove that 2021 was not a fluke. And at this point, I don't think the Bucks will ever get that chance. Now, the fourth thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is how the Clippers are suddenly looking like legitimate contenders. It's unbelievable how the season turned around for them. Not long ago, people were questioning if Kawhi would ever play basketball again, and now he's right back to his best. And the Clippers have quietly become one of the best teams in the league over the last few weeks. In their last 10 games, they haven't just been good, they've been elite. They boast the second best offensive rating in the NBA, averaging 122.4 points per game, and they are nearly as dominant defensively, ranking 4th in defensive rating, holding teams to just 109.5 points per game. As I always say, if you want to win a championship, your best bet is to have a top 10 offense and defense. But right now, the Clippers aren't just top 10, they are top 5 in both. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard have been phenomenal lately, as their statement win against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden was a prime example. Even with New York getting 62 combined points from Towns and Anunoby, the Clippers still won by 13. James Harden was shooting lights out, at one point knocking down 3 straight triples, finishing with 29 points on 50% shooting, while Kawhi added 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists on 56% shooting. One of the most underrated pieces of this team is Ivica Zubac. Every time I watch him, I'm reminded of just how good he actually is. He consistently battles with the league's best bigs, and he often does more than just hold his own, yet he never gets the recognition he deserves. With Kawhi Leonard leading the way, a 2-time Finals MVP, plus a well-balanced roster with a strong system on both ends, the Clippers are making the league take notice. But the biggest question, can they stay healthy? If they do, this team could be very dangerous come playoff time. The fifth thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is that the Houston Rockets are surging right now. The Rockets started out as a fun, young, and exciting team last season, and for the first part of this year, as they showed true flashes of potential. But over the last 12 games, they've taken it to a new level. In this stretch, they've only lost once, coming against the Nuggets, a game that they probably should have won considering the Nuggets didn't have Nikola Jokic, but in every other matchup, they brought the relentlessness, hustle, and defensive intensity, making them a complete nightmare to match up against. Defense has been their calling card all season long, and it's something that definitely carries over into the playoffs. As the saying goes, defense wins championships. Over these 12 games, Houston has had the 3rd best defensive rating in the league, holding opponents to just 109.7 points per game. As standard, they've upheld all year. But what's truly changed is their offense. During this stretch, they ranked 7th in offensive rating, averaging a ridiculous 120.3 points per game. If they can sustain that level of production, they wouldn't just be a fun underdog, they could be a legitimate threat to win the West. But that being said, history is not on their side. Teams that missed the playoffs one year and returned basically with the same roster now in the playoffs usually do not win titles. So the question is, can the Rockets break that pattern? Unlike some of these fun teams that have done it in the past, the Rockets are built on defense, which is a far more reliable way to win games, especially as a young team. But the matchups will be everything for Houston. If they are put into a series against the Thunder or Clippers, 2 elite defensive teams that can also score efficiently, Unfortunately, that would be an incredibly tough situation, because there would not be a whole lot that the Rockets could take advantage of. But if they draw Denver or the Lakers, slower, less defensively aggressive teams, Houston could make life very difficult in a 7-game series. If the Rockets get the right path, they could surprise a lot of people, but only time is going to tell. The 6th thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is how this could be the tightest MVP race the history of the league has ever seen. Right now, there are 2 players who in almost any other season would be the runaway MVP, but this year, one of them's going to walk away empty-handed. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has led the Oklahoma City Thunder to the top of the West, sitting an incredible 12 games ahead of the 2nd place Rockets. And what makes that even crazier is how this Thunder team is ridiculously young. SGA is averaging 33 points per game on elite efficiency, and with every game that passes, he's looking more like the second coming of Kobe Bryant. Then there's Nikola Jokic. His numbers again speak for themselves, but this season he might actually be better than any of his 3 previous MVP seasons. He's arguably having one of the greatest individual years we've ever seen, and it isn't like the Nuggets are struggling either, as they're the 3rd seed in the West. But here's the wild part. In any other year, being 3rd would be a great position, but right now, Denver sits a staggering 15.5 games back of Oklahoma City, while only being 3 games above the play-in tournament. The West is living up to its Wild West reputation, and at the heart of the madness is this MVP race, one that could go down as the most hotly debated in the history of the league. The 7th thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is that the Detroit Pistons have made NBA history with a record that might never be broken again. After pulling off a gutsy win against the Cavaliers without their 2 top scorers, Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris, Detroit etched its name into league history, becoming the only team to ever triple its wins total from the previous season. That alone is incredible, but when you look at how well they're actually playing, it becomes even more impressive. Over their last 10 games, the Pistons have been rolling, thanks to their elite transition offense. In that stretch, they've posted the 5th best offense in the league, averaging 120.9 points per game. Their fast break attack has been devastating, but for most of the season, Denver led the league in that category. But now, Detroit holds the top spot, putting up 16.6 fast break points per game. But what really separates them, the chemistry. They play with an unmatched energy, celebrating each other's successes and bringing maximum effort on every possession. That level of connection makes them incredibly tough to deal with on any given night. Cade Cunningham has emerged as one of the league's best young guards, and this single season turnaround is an amazing accomplishment for not only the team, but the career of Cade Cunningham. Looking forward to the postseason, if Detroit lands the right first round matchup, they could make some serious noise in the East postseason. The 8th thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is how the Chicago Bulls might be the funnest team to watch in the league right now. Let's be real, I had no intentions of speaking about the Bulls in April when I was planning out the season, but here we are. That's because they put together an incredible month of March, led by the dynamic duo of Josh Giddey and Kobe White. And what better way to cap off that run than one of the most wild endings to an NBA game we've ever seen. In a shocking finish against the Lakers, the Bulls went on a 9-2 run in the final 10 seconds, ending with Giddey's half-court buzzer beater to seal the win. That game was just another moment in his historic season, as Giddey has become the only Bulls player besides Michael Jordan to record at least 5 triple-doubles in a single season. But Giddey is not doing it alone. Kobe White has also been on fire, helping power Chicago through an unforgettable stretch. In March, White averaged 29.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4.1 assists on 49% shooting, while Giddey nearly put up a triple-double average of 22.5 points, 10 rebounds, and 9.5 assists, while shooting 52% from the floor. Kobe White has been one of the league's most efficient high-volume scorers in this time, and Giddey's game has taken a massive leap, especially with his three-point shooting and defense. The 2 reasons he got traded last offseason. For Giddey, this is is a massive development. He's already one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA, an elite playmaker with an off-the-charts basketball IQ, and now at just 22 years of age, his offensive game is starting to round out, plus the added defense. Now let's be real, the Bulls are probably not making a deep playoff run. At best, they're a first-round exit in my opinion. But what is really interesting is what the Bulls are going to do in the offseason. With the young core developing fast, how much money are they willing to invest in Josh Giddey? Because you've got to make the decision. Are these real building blocks for the future, or was this month a fluke? Only time will give us the answers. But for now, the Bulls are going to have to make a decision. The ninth thing you're going to need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is how the Minnesota Timberwolves are back. Early in the season, after Julius Randle struggled out of the gate, many people were writing off these Timberwolves. But since his return from injury, he's been a much better fit in their offensive system. And not only that, he's kind of unlocked it. He's making quicker decisions, and his biggest impact is thriving as a playmaker, creating open shots off drive and kick opportunities. Beyond just Randle, Minnesota quietly has one of the best playoff rotations in the league. Their bench features Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all quality two-way players who bring the production on both ends. And when you have that kind of depth to surround Anthony Edwards, this team becomes incredibly dangerous. Over the month of March, the Wolves have been firing on all cylinders, ranking 5th in offensive rating, putting up 121.6 points per game, a massive leap from earlier in the season, while their defense remains amazing, ranking 4th in defensive rating, allowing just 110.3 points per game. For me, true title contenders need a top 10 ranking in both offensive and defensive ratings, with one of them preferably being in the top 5. And as of right now, Minnesota checks both boxes, making them a nightmare for any team to have to go up against in round 1. That's why the playoff seeding is so important. Right now, the Wolves are still within reach of avoiding the play-in, but with the Clippers surging and the Warriors getting Steph Curry back, it's actually more than likely that the Wolves will end up in the 7 to 10 range playing in the play-in tournament. And if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm praying that Minnesota is not my first round opponent, because that would be an absolute dogfight of a series. It also raises another very interesting question. Is the 2 seed in the West actually a bad spot to land? Minnesota could very well end up facing the 2 seed if they win that first play-in game, and with the way they've been going recently, do you really want that smoke? Either way, the Western Conference is going to be a bloodbath, as in the East you can pretty safely bet on Boston and Cleveland being in the East Finals, but in the West, after the Thunder, it is pretty wide open. Minnesota made noise last season, and if I'm a playoff team in the Western Conference, I'm not looking forward to running into them this time around. The 10th thing you need to know before the NBA playoffs begin is how the Lakers defense has finally come back down to earth. After trading Anthony Davis, arguably the best paint defender in the league, for Luka Doncic, arguably one of the worst defenders, it never made sense how the Lakers were actually improving defensively. Right out of the gates, their defense was somehow better, but that magic has finally worn off. Simply put it, this is the defense we were expecting all along. Without AD anchoring the paint, teams are exploiting the Lakers' switch-heavy defensive scheme, generating open threes, easy drives, and uncontested fast break opportunities. And the numbers make that painfully clear. Over the last 10 games, the Lakers have fallen to 22nd in defensive rating, giving up 119.6 points per game. They rank 26th in opponent fast break points, allowing 17.1 in transition, slipped to 18th in opponent points in the paint, giving up 49.4, and they've also struggled on the glass, allowing 14.4 second chance points, also the 18th worst in the NBA. This is a stark contrast to February, where they somehow led the league in defensive rating, holding teams to just 107.2 points per game. At the time, everybody was asking, how on earth is this happening? Now, they're looking like exactly the defensive mess we originally expected. If the Lakers want any shot at contending, they have to rediscover at least half of what made them such a good defense in the month of February. Because let's be real, there's no chance that they can win the championship with a bottom 10 defense. But just like LA, every title hopeful has one key area they need to improve upon. And if you want to know what each contender needs to fix before the playoff run, you can check out this video now, where I break down every team's path to perfection.